Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Hello. Can I get your attention? Hi, guys, gals, everybody. Welcome. We're going to get started here. Thank you, everybody who was able to join us in person. And also to all you Zoomers online, we really appreciate your presence. I also am just super pumped to be in person finally. So can I get like a little bit of a woohoo? I mean, I feel like that was maybe a little lackadaisical. Can I get like a woo-hoo? Like a woo! Awesome. I love it. Love the enthusiasm. So I just want to give you guys a quick introduction for those of you who may not have been to a SheJumps event before. We are a nonprofit that inspires women and girls to get into the outdoors and specifically to build their skill set and learn new things and try new things. And today we have Allie Miles, who was a board member for COAC last year, right? Who's going to give a presentation on knowing before you go, talking about avalanche awareness. Oops. And we just, first off, really want to thank all of the sponsors for the event tonight. So the Central Oregon Avalanche Center, they put up forecasts 4 days a week now. So you can go to their website and check those out anytime you go outside to ski in the backcountry. We also want to thank the Embark co-working space, Laura Grayson, for allowing us to have the event here, and Dave at Crow's Feet downstairs, where you guys all enjoyed, or those of you who are of legal age, enjoyed a beer. So let's give a shout out to them as well. Thanks. Woohoo! And then I just wanted to give a quick introduction to the volunteers from SheJumps. So in the back, in the SheJumps giraffe-acorn hat, we have Krista Nash-Weber. Let's give it up for Krista. Woohoo! We also have Tanya Gephardt, who's in the black mask and the maroon sweater. Woohoo! And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Marissa Hurst. I'm also a volunteer for SheJumps. And then lastly, I just want to introduce Allie Miles, our speaker today. Allie has been skiing in the backcountry for a long time. She's lived out in Oregon for about 10 years now. She's also an avalanche instructor for ARI, as well as an AMGA apprentice ski guide. So let's give it up for Allie. And for those of you who are online, we're going to answer questions at the end. So feel free to drop them in the chat box on Zoom. And for those of you here, just raise your hand and ask a question at the end. So let's give it up for Allie.
Thanks, Marissa. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. Thanks SheJumps and Central Oregon Avalanche Center, Embark, and Crow's Feet for putting on this event. And to you all, it's awesome to be here in person. I've been doing these events for probably like 5 years, and yeah, it was tough doing it on Zoom last year, and it's awesome to be back in person again. So thanks for coming out. And there's a lot of empty seats up here in the front. So if you want to scoot up at any point, you're welcome to do that. Yeah, my name's Allie. My pronouns are she, her. I've been in Central Oregon for about 12 years now. And I currently work for Oregon Ski Guides as an ARI course instructor and a ski guide, apprentice ski guide. So yeah, thanks, welcome. So tonight I want to run through just some basic avalanche awareness. It could be just an introduction to those of you who are maybe interested in skiing in the backcountry, or it could be a refresher for those of you who maybe have some experience and probably have not been out yet this season since we don't have snow yet. Or maybe you've been brave and you have been out. So yeah, we'll run through some basic avalanche stuff, and then we'll talk about some essential gear and some resources and some tips to help you continue on your learning journey. So let's jump right into it. This is a photo of an avalanche, but can anyone tell me what an avalanche is? The picture helps with a clue. Snow sliding. I heard sliding. Yeah. What is it sliding down? A mountain. Yeah. Yeah, an avalanche is snow sliding, flowing, tumbling down a slope. And how do avalanches occur? There's 3 things that we need. Snow, yep. A slope. A trigger, yeah. You guys sound like you already know your stuff. So yeah, we need snow, a slope, and some unstable snow or weak snow, a slope, and a trigger. So let's start with slope. You know, it doesn't have to be some like big gnarly slope. We're really looking at slopes that are in the 30 to 45 degree range. And so here's a visual of what that looks like. This red portion is it's a sweet spot of where avalanches occur. And when you get less steep than that, there's really just not enough gravity to pull snow down the slope. And then once you start getting really steep, those slopes they're so steep that they don't tend to hold on to snow. So really this 30 to 45 degree range is where avalanches occur. And it's also the range where most of us are skiing and riding. So it's kind of this this overlap that's really the sweet spot for avalanches. And we call this range avalanche terrain. Any slope that's over 30 degrees in steepness is avalanche terrain. So just to give you kind of an idea of what this looks like, this is a slope that's less than 30 degrees. And this is like your blue square runs at a ski resort. And then once you get into the 30 to 35 degree range, that's like your black diamond run at a ski resort. This is a photo of my friend Jenny in the Tumalo Bowl. The Tumalo Bowl can get into the upper 30s in some parts, but most of it, this part where she's making a turn is actually probably more in the 20s, but generally the bowl that's avalanche terrain. It does avalanche. And then once you get into 35 or your upper 30s, 35 plus, that's like your double black diamond runs at a ski resort. And then once you get higher than that, like 45 degrees or steeper, that's really like your mountaineering terrain. So most of us probably aren't skiing 45 plus. Yeah, that's on Mount Hood. So how do I know what a slope angle is? Yeah. Oh.
Just regular slide mode and see if that works. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Sorry guys, quick hiatus. Technical difficulties.
I'm gonna grab my notes.
So sorry about that.
Oops. Does it sound like I'm breathing into the microphone? Okay, I'm trying to hold it close enough that you all can hear me, but I can hear myself breathing into it, so I apologize for that.
See if that works.
Do you want to check?
Oh, hard still. Oh man. No, it keeps going to this.
Oh, weird. We have to end show.
Yeah, let's end it. Usually when you just know what we're gonna do here. Real quick.
Do you want me to play from current slide?
Yeah, let's try that. I think we might have to just restart PowerPoint.
Okay.
Yeah, one sec. Yeah,
Here, I'll move.
sorry guys, 1 second. Oh, this is not the right one. So, okay, that's right.
You know what? I'm gonna use this opportunity while right now, only one person is on ticket, so that person is. So if anyone does have cash, we have just a 2 fun little piles of stuff that she does $1 ticket. So let me know if you want to buy any. I can talk to you. Valerie's got this.
Sorry. Oh man, I don't know why it keeps showing up like this. Oh. Ah, there we go. I'm not sure. I'll tell you in a sec. Okay, I think I got it. And then we'll just hold on. All right. What is it? Actually, I don't need this. You can hold on to it. Hey, you guys online, can you just drop a note in the chat if you can see the slides now? Oh, you can see them. Great. Excellent. Yay. Okay. Sorry about that.
Zoom problems, am I right? Oh, there we go. Hey, Marissa, it sounds like people maybe still aren't able to see the presentation on Zoom. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it. Okay, maybe they can. I think we're good. Okay, cool. It seems like some people can see it,
And some people can't.
and then, yeah. So,
I'm gonna tell them, try to log in with Zoom and not Eventbrite. Some people are seeing presenter view. Shoot, I mean, because it's definitely not.
yeah.
Can you,
Okay, some people can see it. It sounds like Zoom is working.
okay,
So,
like, okay,
close that chat. Are we ready? Should we keep going?
yeah, let's keep moving. So sorry.
That's okay. All right, everyone. Thanks for that brief intermission. We're going to keep rolling. Okay, so we're talking about slope angles, and so we're looking for the slopes that are in that 30 to 45 degree range. But you know, how do we know when we're out there in the backcountry? How do we know what a slope angle is? Let's figure out how to. Okay, there we go. So there's a tool called a slope meter or an inclinometer. This one's from BCA, and it's just like, it's pretty small. It fits in your hand or your pocket. So you can use something like this to measure a slope angle, and you just kind of eyeball. You have to get down close to the slope and you eyeball it, and you can measure slope using a tool like this. You can also use a compass, a regular compass, a compass in your smartphone if you have one. So that's another tool that you can use. And you can also get clues from your surroundings. So any ideas on what your number one clue is if you're trying to figure out whether or not you're in avalanche terrain? Avalanche debris, yeah, totally. So if you see avalanche debris, it could be snow piled up like this. It could be trees that have been torn down that are kind of like piled up at the bottom of a slope. Or if you see avalanche activity, sometimes you can be out there in the mountains and actually see an avalanche happening. That's obviously your number one clue. And then other clues are natural and in the mountains, like avalanche paths, like we see in this photo.
Okay, sorry, you guys, we got the shared screen because no one online can see it. And we're just gonna point the screen to the, I'm gonna see if we can do this, like super old school. Sorry. Problem is, this is probably not gonna work that well.
Wow.
It's really bad. Hey guys, the magic of Zoom, we still haven't figured it out. Okay, let's go from there and we'll see how that goes. I apologize for all of you.
Okay, thanks everyone for bearing with us. So another clue that you're in avalanche terrain is an avalanche path like you see here. So you can see where the snow has come down and wiped out all the trees in this area. Sometimes you'll see little like baby trees like you see at the bottom of this photo. So if you're out there and you see a bunch of like, you're in a normal forest and then you see a path like this with a bunch of trees that are all really short and the same height, that means that avalanches are probably happening there. Or if you see trees where all of their uphill branches have been broken off, or the trees are kind of bent toward the downhill, that's another indication that that's an avalanche path. So that's one of your other clues when you're looking for avalanche terrain. And when you're out there, you know, trying to figure out whether or not you're on avalanche terrain, exposed to avalanches, you also want to pay attention to connected and overhead terrain. So if you're touring or snowmobiling or snowshoeing or cross country skiing and you're in a flat area, but there's a really big slope either connected to you or up above you or in front of you, then you might still be exposed to that avalanche terrain even though you're standing on flat ground. So that's something else to think about when you're out there. And then you also want to watch for things like cliffs, rocks, crevasses, thick stands of trees, steep drainages, lakes. These are called terrain traps. And what that means is that if you're in a terrain trap, when an avalanche happens or you get pulled into a terrain trap, then the consequences of getting caught in the avalanche are going to be much worse. So in those areas, you might have a higher risk of trauma, like hitting a tree, going over a cliff, going into a crevasse, or you might get buried much deeper, like if you get pulled into a drainage. So when you think about where you are touring or where you're hanging out, taking a break, make sure that you're not in a place that's a terrain trap where you're gonna have a higher consequence if you get caught in an avalanche. So there are two main types of avalanches, slab avalanches and loose avalanches. Slab avalanches are the most destructive and they're responsible for the most avalanche fatalities. They tend to be bigger, more destructive, and those are the ones that are really causing avalanche fatalities. So that's when the snow, you have a hard, strong slab of snow over top of weak, sugary snow. And when that snow breaks, it breaks as a cohesive unit. So you think of like a plane of glass breaking, like shattering under your feet. That's how a slab avalanche breaks, just like in this photo. And so here's some photos of a slab avalanche. This was on Diamond Peak, just a little bit south of here near the Willamette Pass. And this wasn't a very big slope. That's actually me in the upper left corner. And my partner and I were skiing and he was out in front of me and he kind of rolled over and triggered this avalanche. And it wasn't a very big slope, but you can see this like really big chunky debris. So that's a slab avalanche. And then loose avalanches, those result from a weakness within the upper layers of the snowpack, and they start from a single point. A lot of times they start near rocks or cliffs like you see in this photo, and then they fan out as the snow moves down the slope and entrains more snow. And a lot of times we think of this as slough, and we might ski it all the time. In the winter, when you're making turns in powder and the snow is moving down, it's really unconsolidated. And so that's, that's slough. That's technically a loose avalanche. And then in the springtime, if you're skiing corn snow and the like really wet snow starts moving down the slope with you, that's also a loose avalanche. So, we think about managing our slough. And where you can get into trouble with these is when the snow can start moving faster than you expect, or it entrains more snow more quickly than you might be anticipating. And it can pull you into terrain traps. It can pull you into places that you don't want to go to, like over cliffs, into trees, into a crevasse, that sort of thing. So, so with loose avalanches, especially in the springtime, if you start to see roller balls, or just kind of or pinwheels, or just the snow kind of loosening up and kind of moving around on the surface of the snow, then you don't want to be skiing steep slopes that are in the direct sun. So that's a good time to either move toward the shade or move to some lower angle skiing. And then cornices are kind of their own thing. And cornices, you might think that a lot of people think they're fun to like huck or ski off of. But the thing with cornices is that they can be really unpredictable when they break. And they can break back further on a slope, like the top of a slope or a ridge, than you might be expecting. So they can cause injury because they can be really massive chunks of ice. Or when they break and fall, they can trigger a slab avalanche on the slope below them. That kind of thing. I've seen that happen on the Tumalo, where those big cornices build up on the top of the Tumalo bowl, and then sometimes they break off and trigger a slab avalanche in the bowl. So the key is that the snow stacks up throughout the season with every storm, and then between every storm, the snow is constantly being influenced by the weather as it warms up, as it rains, as more snow accumulates. It's just constantly changing, and the layers have different characteristics. And the way, when you start having layers with different characteristics that don't bond to each other, that's when you start getting slab avalanches and the avalanche danger goes up. So some things to think about when you're thinking about how the snow stacks up together and how that kind of interplays with the avalanche danger are things that cause rapid change. So the snowpack is just like us. It doesn't like rapid change. So things like a foot of snow or more in a 24-hour period, that's going to cause the avalanche danger to go up. So you always want to be paying attention to how much snow is coming in a storm cycle, how quickly that snow is stacking up. If you're out there skiing or snowshoeing or whatever, and it's really dumping, you can look on the brim of your hat or on your backpack and just pay attention to how quickly that snow is stacking up. And if it's really stacking up quickly, then you should expect that the avalanche danger is going up too. Another thing is wind. The wind can transport snow at a rate of 10 times faster than it falls from the sky. So it can really load slopes quite a bit. And the way it works is the wind picks up the snow crystals and like tumbles them around and churns them in the air. And then when they land, they get really packed together, and it creates a slab. And the wind blows the snow from the windward side of the slope to the leeward side, and it'll stack up the snow and create a wind slab on the leeward side. It can also create cornices. So when you're out there, you always want to be paying attention to how hard the wind's blowing, what direction it's blowing. And if you see things like blowing snow, like on ridge tops, or the wind is picking up snow out of trees and blowing it up into the air, then that's an indication that the wind is affecting the snow and it might be increasing the avalanche danger. So here's some photos of some wind effects. So you can see, this is from Ball Butte out by Broken Top. And you can see over here, this section is scoured. This had actually been rained on. So you can see the rain runnels over here. And then we got snow on top of that. So that's completely scoured. All the snow got moved over here. And this is where the ski tracks are, because that's actually good skiing. That would just be like icy crust. So you can just kind of see, and right here, you can tell it's a little bit more scoured. And then like up here, there's powder over here. Looks like maybe it's scoured up at the top. So you can see on the surface of the snow how it's been affected by the wind. Same thing here. You can see in the foreground of this photo, the snow has been scoured off this slope. And so it's been transported somewhere else. And sometimes, you know, actually, usually that's going to be where the best skiing is, but it's also where you have to pay attention, looking for wind slabs and see how the wind has affected the snow. So when it stacks it up just a little bit, that might be great skiing or riding, but when it starts stacking it up too much, then that could be a higher avalanche danger. So another one is rapid thaw. I mentioned this a little bit with roller balls and pinwheels, and here's a photo of that happening. So, you know, when the upper snowpack, when you have a rapid thaw, the temperatures are going up quickly. So rapid change, the upper snowpack starts to lose consolidation. And so you get these roller balls and these pinwheels, and they're just an indication that the snow is weaker. And so you might have an issue like a loose avalanche here. So if I were seeing these kinds of conditions out in the mountains, I would probably move off steep slopes in the sun. The same thing here. This is just another photo of some roller balls and some pinwheels. Tree bombs is another one. Have you all seen tree bombs? Yeah. So sun comes out, especially like, you know, we might get a storm where the temperature drops. We get a bunch of snow. And then as soon as the sun comes out, especially once we get into like later in February and March, and as soon as that sun comes out, it starts changing the top of the snow, and the tree bombs start coming. All the snow starts coming off in big clumps off the top of the trees. So that's an indication that things are warming up. Another one is shooting cracks or whoops. Has anyone seen shooting cracks? Has anyone heard whoops before? Yeah, so those are red flags. And what is happening is there's a weak layer within the snowpack that's collapsing, probably under your feet. And that air that was being held within that weak layer is escaping the snowpack. And so you really hear a whoomp. And it sounds, it kind of sounds like the snowpack is like letting out a sigh. And sometimes you can feel or see the snowpack actually drop. It's a really weird feeling. And that's definitely a red flag. If I see shooting cracks or hear whumping, I'm going to stay off 30-degree slopes that day. I'm not even going to mess with that. I'm going to ski the low angle terrain and have fun doing that. And I'm not going to mess around with whumps and cracks. So if you see ski tracks on a slope, what do you think? Do you think that means it's safe? I heard a no. Does anyone think that, yeah, it's probably good? Oh, you are smart. You know your stuff. Yeah. With some types of avalanche problems, you could be the 20th skier and be the one to trigger that avalanche, especially in places like Colorado and Utah with the nature of their snowpacks. We can have those kinds of problems around here too. But really the key is that just because you see ski tracks on a slope, if you know that that's avalanche terrain, don't assume outright that that's fine to ski, because there might be an avalanche problem that could be triggered by the 20th skier. So let's talk about what happens if you get caught in an avalanche. You know, so avalanches can happen naturally. They can happen intentionally, like at ski resorts with avalanche control work. But 90% of avalanche fatalities are caused by either the victim themselves or someone in the victim's party. So we're doing this by choice. It's not like getting struck by lightning. It's up to us to choose terrain based on the snowpack and the weather. And if we choose wrong, then this is what can happen. And when you get caught in an avalanche, it's a traumatic event. Snow can move up to 60 to 80 miles an hour within seconds. So here's a photo of one. And for avalanche, when it comes to avalanche fatalities, 1 in 4 people are killed just from the trauma alone of getting caught in the avalanche, getting hit by rocks or trees on the way down. The other 3 out of 4 die from asphyxiation, breathing their own carbon dioxide underneath the snow. And when the snow stops, you know, like it gets going, it can get up to 60 to 80 miles an hour. And then when it stops, within seconds, it sets up like concrete. And so once it sets like this in this photo, it's really hard to move the snow. It's not the fluffy powder that you dropped into, and it's not something where you can just dig yourself out. You're gonna depend on your partners to get you out. So how do we avoid avalanches? We're gonna go through 5 steps. The first one is to get the gear. The essential gear for going into avalanche terrain is having a beacon or an avalanche transceiver, a probe, and a shovel. And you need to have a metal avalanche shovel, not just any old plastic shovels. Plastic shovels will break. And then you need to know how to use your gear. So your beacon has 3 modes: off, send, and search. And before you leave the trailhead, you're going to turn your beacon on, you're going to check it, make sure it's got enough battery life, make sure all the functions work, and then you're going to put it in send mode. And then when you're out there skiing, riding, snowmobiling, you have your beacon on, it's attached to your person, because if it's on your snowmobile or in your pack, it's not going to do you any good. If you get caught in an avalanche and your beacon's in your pack can get ripped off you. So usually you can wear it in a harness or in a zippered pocket by itself, but you need to have it somewhere attached to your person. And so you have it in send mode, and it's sending out the signal all the time. And then if you get caught in an avalanche, then the other people in your party turn their beacons to search mode, and they go through a systematic process to find you under the snow. And then you get your probe out of your pack, or your partner gets their probe out of their pack, and they deploy it downhill. It clicks into place. And then there's a system with that as well, to probe in the snow and locate you. And then when they get a probe strike, when they've hit you, and then they get out their shovel and start digging. And, you know, the average avalanche burial is 1 to 1.5 meters under the snow. And to move enough snow for someone who's down 1 meter, you have to move a literal ton of snow. And remember, the snow sets up like concrete. So if you think about, you know, when we get snow in town and you're shoveling your driveway and it's like no big deal because it's all nice and fluffy, and just as soon as you get the driveway covered, the snowplow comes by and then like puts this big berm. And that berm is always the worst to dig out because it's been churned up. It's like heavy, it's chunky, it's icy. And that's what avalanche debris is like. So you have to move a ton of that. So the shoveling takes a long time. It's really hard work. And you've got about 15 minutes. Once your partner gets buried, you've got about 15 minutes to get them out before their chances of survival go way down. So you need to practice. You need to have your essential gear. You need to know how to use it, and you need to practice regularly. So let's also talk about airbags. So an airbag, this is something you can buy. It's like built into a pack. And the way it works is if you're skiing or riding down a slope and you trigger an avalanche, then you pull this plug that blows up the airbag. And what it does is it increases your surface size and keeps you up on top of the snow. So it also can protect your head and your neck from trauma. So that's great. Airbags are awesome, especially for places like British Columbia or Alaska, where you're skiing or riding really big slopes. It's not going to be as helpful in places where you might be in tight trees, or if you're exposed to cliffs. It's not going to stop you from going over a cliff, going into a train trap. So airbags are a great extra measure of security, but it doesn't mean you can just go, drop into whatever slope you want. The Avalon is another one that comes in ski packs. You can purchase this, as part of a ski pack. And this is pretty cool. It's a mouthpiece. So when you drop into the slope, you have to have this mouthpiece in your mouth. And then if you do get caught in an avalanche, it pulls air from behind you when you're under the snow and just keeps bringing you fresh air. So it can give you an extra 45 minutes to an hour under the snow. So if you have partners that, or whatever, for whatever reason, it's taking longer to get you out of the snow, it can buy you extra time. At the same time, I wouldn't want to bank on that. Too, if you have this little thing in your mouth and then you're skiing or riding, I can't imagine holding that in my mouth and then getting caught in an avalanche and potentially getting wrecked and tumbled down a slope. And I would imagine that thing would just get ripped right out. So again, great idea, great extra measure of security, not a guarantee. And then Reco chips. These are chips that are in most of our clothing. They're in a ton of gear these days. And really what this is for, it's a chip that's not picked up by an avalanche transceiver. So it's not a replacement for wearing a beacon. This is really for snow safety or search and rescue that has this yellow contraption that can scan and come find you. So if you are ducking a rope at a resort, and snow safety's on hand, that's really the idea behind Reco chips and body recovery, honestly. So again, great notion. Definitely does not replace the essential gear for avalanche safety. So the next step is to get the training. Like I mentioned with your gear, it's one thing to have the gear, and then it's another thing to really know how to use it. And you can totally do that with your friends. There's actually tons of content online that's pretty amazing to just start to learn a lot of this stuff. BCA has a ton of 101 type videos. And really, I've just been seeing it everywhere. A lot of snow brands are putting out all kinds of avalanche safety content. So there's a lot, I think, online that you can learn just by searching. A lot of free knowledge, free videos. And then you can go out and practice with your friends. There's also tons of opportunities for courses around here. Oregon Ski Guides, Three Sisters Backcountry, both offer a variety of courses, from intro to avalanche safety type courses, intro to backcountry skiing, and then your level 1 and 2 type of courses, rescue courses. So there's a ton of offerings around here. Most of those are probably sold out for this season, so you have to be on it early if it's something you wanted to do next year. Yeah, I would just be prepared to look for that stuff early in the fall. You can hire a guide. I know Oregon Ski Guides is offering kind of a blend of guiding plus some skill building. So if that's something you're interested in and you have the means, that could be another opportunity to learn and continue your training. So these are some photos from Three Sisters backcountry in the last couple of years, just practicing rescue. And then you want to get the forecast. COAC, if you've been following them over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, or even if you've even the past couple of years, they've really been improving their forecasting product. They used to offer kind of regular professional observations, which was really great. And now they're doing a forecast 4 days a week. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are their forecasts. And yeah, they give you all this information. So you get the avalanche problem, you get the location. So this is the elevation bands and the aspect. You get the likelihood, the potential size, and then you get these discussions and bottom lines where they break it down and explain what you should be looking for out there, what you might want to avoid, stuff like that. So I recommend reading the forecast every time you go out and really just paying attention to it all the time. I mean, it's 4 days a week. I just look at it even if I know I'm not skiing that day, because the problems, some of them will continue day to day, some of them will evolve, some of them will kind of like they'll build up for a couple of days and then maybe go away. So I recommend tuning into the forecast all the time. And then you want to get the picture. And this is really about, you know, in addition to the avalanche forecast, thinking about the weather forecast, what's happening. Is there going to be high winds? Is there going to be a temperature warm up? Is there going to be a big storm coming in that might drop a foot or more of snow in the next 24 to 48 hours? That sort of thing. And then it's really the situational awareness when you're out there in the mountains, thinking about, does the weather forecast match what you're seeing? Maybe it was supposed to be really windy that day and you get out there and it's completely calm, or the other way around. Or maybe it was supposed to be stormy and it's like the storm broke and it's really sunny and warm and you might be seeing tree bombs come down. So just thinking about what's actually happening, kind of always paying attention. Don't just get into the skin track and zone out, but making observations all around you. It also includes your group dynamics, reading the energy of your group, making sure that you're all communicating well, and like are on the same page. I mean, that's critical to be out in the backcountry together, having a good trusted group of partners that you can communicate with. And then you want to get out of harm's way. And that's thinking about, you know, I'm not going to tell you to never ski slopes over 30 degrees, because those are the slopes that's where the best skiing is. But always know that you have the option to ski slopes that are not avalanche terrain. You can ski below 30 degrees and have a ton of fun. And also, you know, if you are going to be in avalanche terrain, how can you minimize your exposure? So maybe you want to be skiing or riding a slope that you know is avalanche terrain that's in that 30 to 45 degree range, but maybe you skin up on a flat area and take a ridge line so you're not exposing yourself to that slope while you're approaching. Or you think about where you take your breaks. Don't stop for a snack at the bottom of a big slope where maybe other people are coming down. Or when you're dropping in, like make a plan with your group, talk about how you're going to ski it, ski one at a time. Have a meetup at the bottom that's out away from any kind of avalanche run out zone. Don't ski down or snowboard down on top of another group that might be coming up, those sorts of things. So just, you know, we're going to expose ourselves to some level of risk just by getting out into the backcountry, but thinking about how can I minimize that risk as much as possible. And remember, you can always do the low angle slopes, and those are super fun. And the goal is to just, you know, get home safely so you can get back out there again. And, you know, if anybody in your group is having doubts, just simplify the plan. You can always back it down a notch, but if you get caught in an avalanche, you don't get a do-over, and it's never worth it. So just remember, keep it simple whenever you're in doubt. And that's all I got. We can go to questions. I'll pull up the chat, and then meanwhile, does anyone here have questions? Yeah.
Can you talk about layering on the backcountry? I get really hot going up and then immediately things get cold going down. What do you usually layer?
Yeah, that's a great question about how to layer. Yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend having a lot of layering options, because you don't want to, if you can avoid it, you don't want to break a sweat going uphill. So if you have base layers or mid layers, especially ones that are quick drying, like wool or synthetic, something like that. And it, it depends on the weather, if it's snowing or if it's sunny, but having layers that you can peel, and then also having some extra layers like puffy coat, maybe a Gore-Tex type or some sort of windproof, waterproof jacket in your pack. Because as soon as you get to the top, especially if you have sweated, or if you get to a ridge top or something and there's wind up there, then you can get cold really fast. So I definitely recommend bringing a variety of layers that you can kind of peel off and put back on, and plan on delayering when you start out, and then be prepared as soon as you stop. I put layers on immediately. It's the first thing I do when we stop. Even if we're just doing a quick transition and going down, I'll stop and immediately put my layer on to hold in that warmth. And actually, that's a really good question. Some other things to think about are things like first aid training, and then thinking about what you want to carry in your pack, in terms of hot drinks, first aid supplies, repair stuff, repair kit. Even if you're touring to Todd Lake or Tumalo, you are out there in a wintertime environment, where it might take, if something goes wrong, it might take you a while to get out, or it might take a while for someone to come get to you to help. So I definitely recommend erring on the side of carrying a little bit of extra stuff so that you have those warmth and comfort items. Yeah.
Thanks, Sally. My question is twofold. Can you practice beacon practice at Bachelor? One, and two, what do you typically put in your pack when you're going on touring?
Those are two great questions. One is about the beacon park at Mount Bachelor. Mount Bachelor does have a beacon park. I don't know what the current status of it is, but it's really cool because when it is operational, there's basically a switchboard, and you can turn permanent beacons that they have set up out there on and off, and use your beacon to go search and practice. So I would recommend contacting Mount Bachelor and finding out whether that is open right now or when they plan to have that in operation, because that's a great local resource. And then in terms of what I carry in my pack, gosh, I carry a lot of layers, at least a puffy coat, probably some sort of hard shell. I carry beanie, I carry extra gloves. So I usually tour in lighter ones and then have at least one pair of really thick ones. Around here, I tend to carry extra gloves because things get wet quickly. So I like having some dry gloves to change into. I usually carry a hydro flask or some sort of thermos with like some hot tea or hot cocoa, something like that. Tons of snacks. I carry a radio, and that's something I've been seeing more and more and more among just everyday recreational users. Especially as the backcountry gets more crowded, I think it's a great tool to not only have within your group, to communicate with each other. So if somebody has skied down, and even if they want to radio up, like, hey, next skier can come down, or like, hey, avoid far skiers left. It's like there's chunky ice something over there, or something. Radios are awesome to communicate. Also, if you see another group out there and they're using radios, you can communicate with them like, hey, we're on the top of this thing. We want to come down. We don't want to come down on top of you. Like, what's your time plan for moving out of the way? In a respectful way. But but radios are a great tool for communication. First aid kit, repair kit, kind of basic repair kit. Yeah, stuff like that. Way more. I carry a lot of stuff because I've been trained to do that. So I carry like a rescue tarp and all this other stuff. But it's good to have for someone in your group at least to have some sort of rescue tarp or rescue mechanism. But yeah. Yes.
What are your favorite spots to tour in Central Oregon that don't require a snowmobile?
Ooh, it depends on how far you're willing to tour on foot. Tumalo is great. I have endless fun. And actually I love the tree side. I know that most people ski the bowl. I love skiing the trees. There's a lot of different ski rides. Yeah, it's low angle, but when you have just the right amount of snow, like kind of that 4 to 6 inch range, and it's not, if it's too deep, it's really hard to get enough speed on that low angle terrain. But when you have kind of like 4 to 6 inches of fresh powder on top of something that's kind of more supportive, then it can be really fast and really fun. And I love skiing through the Tumalo trees. I also love Todd Lake and getting out to that area, and that's pretty easy to get to from the Mount Bachelor parking lot.
There are a couple of questions online.
Yeah. Do you want me to just hit them? Okay. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay, it looks like someone asked about kind of a position, like a tuck and roll position, that if you get caught in an avalanche. And generally what I've learned, if you get caught in an avalanche, yeah, I mean, if you can protect your head, that's great. Also, but you do want to fight. You want to thrash. You want to fight as hard as you can. Protect your head if you can, like at the end when you can feel it start to slow down, or try to punch through to the top. That can be another thing. Definitely drop your poles. If you carry poles, don't use the straps on your wrist because that can pull you down. It could pull your arm out of your socket. So no wrist straps on your poles, and just drop any gear. Get it off because that stuff can pull you down. Kick off your skis if you can. All that said, it's really hard. Like I've never actually been caught and buried in an avalanche. I imagine that's really hard to do, but thrash and fight as hard as you can. Protect your head and neck if you can. Let's see. Are there often many people on the slopes here? And can you speak more about awareness about other groups? Yeah, so, you know, sometimes there are a lot of groups, especially in popular places like the Tumalo Bowl, out at Tamrim, Todd Lake, and those East Side glades, and really just be respectful of each other, give each other space. If you want to ski or snowboard down the Tumalo Bowl and you see people that are grouped at the bottom, like maybe give them a few minutes to start to scan out of the way before you come down. Because actually, I think last year there was a near miss that was reported on the COAC website of a group that did knock down a small avalanche on another group, and somebody was partially buried. So communicate if you can, but just give each other respect and space. And if you're at the bottom, you don't really want to be hanging out at the bottom of a slope anyway. It's not the best place. So just, you know, maybe get your skins back on, get moving, and then stop when you get out on the ridge or something, or into a place where you're out of that, both that run out zone and where skiers or snowboarders are coming down. Then, yeah, maybe that's a good place to take a break or have a snack or whatever. Yeah, just give each other space and respect. Questions? All right, thanks for coming out, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Allie.
Yep.
Thanks everybody online for bearing with us. I know that wasn't, thanks everyone for bearing with us online. I know that wasn't like the most coherent way to present the presentation. We'll be sharing the recording and the PowerPoint so you guys can follow along on your own. Just so everybody knows, I want to give a big thank you to Allie. Thank you so much for taking your time. I know you have a busy schedule. We all really appreciate it. So let's give one more round of applause. I know we're all super pumped for ski season, snowboard season, and let's just keep hoping for some snow here in the next week or two. A couple other items. There's about 4 of you who we don't have COVID sign-in information for. So if you could follow up with Krista at the back, she's wearing a giraffe-corn on her baseball hat. If you could just check in with her and sign in to that COVID sheet. There's about 4 names that are missing. In addition, we have a few upcoming events I wanted to let you all know about. So there's going to be a wax event here at Crow's Feet. I believe it's full, but there is a wait list. So if you want to sign up for that, feel free to. We'd love to see you all there. That goes for online folks as well. We also have, Allie mentioned earlier that Oregon Ski Guides has a couple of different intro courses. There's a sort of intro to backcountry skiing and snowboarding. There's 2 dates that I believe are both full. There's also an avalanche skills workshop, which is just 1 day. And it allows you to learn some of the basic skills Allie was talking to you about today, such as using your beacon, using your probe, and digging with your shovel. So if you want to join any of those, feel free to sign up online. There's a link on Eventbrite and Facebook. We also have 2 other events coming up in February and March as well. So there's a women's retreat at the Subtle Lake Lodge, and Alana's in the back. Can you stick your hand up and wave? Alana's in charge of organizing some of the events that are held out at Subtle Lake Lodge. We're going to be doing a Nordic ski yoga wine weekend. It's the last weekend in February. So you'll see that on our SheJumps website if you sign up for the newsletter. And we also have a hut-to-hut cross-country ski traverse through Three Sisters Backcountry that you can sign up for soon as well. So those are the kind of the events that are coming up soon. Keep your eye out for that. But with that, let's pick, oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. Dave has also generously given us these little discount cards to be used down at Crow's Feet. So make sure you grab one from Krista on the way out. Okay. Let's do this raffle. We have 2 raffles, by the way. Okay, winning ticket number 1, 9777364. Who is it? Woo! You can come on up. What's your name? Say it again. Okay, come on up. All right. Raffle ticket number 2, 9777368. You got the whole pile, by the way. Here. Is that you, Joe? Awesome. Yay! Woohoo! All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you soon. Hey, you actually get the whole thing. Let me get it for you.